Tales of Herding Gods, Chapter 463, Chapter Translator, Editor, Dark Gem. Chinmu lifted his gaze, eyes piercing through the drifting clouds as he looked toward the palaces suspended in the heavens. From within those celestial halls, streams of women soared outward like immortal swallows, descending gracefully upon the surrounding mountain peaks. True Heaven Palace had clearly long since received word. Chinmu had rallied the great families, and the storm had already reached their gates. Bang! Without warning, a towering mountain peak shattered violently. Countless boulders blasted outward in all directions, while others cascaded down its slopes like a landslide of thunder. Yet this was no natural collapse. The mountain itself twisted and rose, its form transforming into a colossal giant of earth and stone. The giant crouched low, wrenching its enormous legs free from the ground. The earth quaked endlessly beneath its movement, as though the land itself could not bear its awakening. He lifted a delicate hand. At her command, the immense bamboo city shuddered and came to a halt. Before them, the mountain giant straightened slowly, its towering figure blotting out the sky. Its palm alone was as vast as 100 fields, and when it swept through the air, the wind howled like a raging tempest. In one fluid motion, it reached out and seized a nearby mountain peak shaped like a sword. A piercing screech echoed across heaven and earth as the giant tore the sword-shaped peak free from the land. Rocks tumbled and shattered in every direction. By the time the giant raised its weapon high, the soil and debris had already fallen away, revealing the truth hidden within. It was no mere peak. It was a colossal mountain sword. Through the veils of mist, Chinmu's expression grew solemn as he gazed upon the mountain giant and the immense blade it wielded. The foundation of True Heaven Palace was terrifyingly profound. It far surpassed even the sacred grounds of Middle-earth. Whether it was Dao Sect, Great Thunderclap Monastery, or even the Heavenly Devil Cult, none of them possessed such monstrous heritage. Bang. Bang. Thunderous explosions rang out one after another as more mountains stirred. Forests twisted and rose, transforming into giants thousands of yards tall. Each seized weapons of unimaginable scale, their presence suffocating the heavens. They were the guardians of True Heaven Palace. Countless disciples stood atop the giant's shoulders and heads, rising and falling with their movements. Their killing intent surged like a tidal wave, saturating the battlefield. Chinmu cast a glance toward Mu Yingshui. If she had not poisoned the Xiong family beforehand, the Yu family would have faced immense difficulty seizing True Heaven Palace and stripping the Xiong family of authority. These mountain giants alone were a force that eclipsed an army of 1,000,000. Form ranks. He's voice rang out, clear and commanding. The women of the He family stepped forward from the city. Each drew out a formation flag, their silken banners fluttering in the wind. In an instant, countless spirit weapons for formation techniques cascaded from the flags like falling stars. With swift precision, the He family disciples assembled them. Before Chinmu's eyes, a breathtaking sight unfolded. These divine arts practitioners were constructing siege engines of staggering scale. Catapults 300 yards tall rose behind Bamboo City, their massive frames locked into place as winches spun and tightened with deafening creaks. Meanwhile, the divine arts practitioners of the Fang family unleashed their techniques. From the mountain giants behind them, rocks poured down in an endless torrent, merging into colossal boulders that rolled directly into the catapult frames. Elsewhere, countless women of the Shi family scattered seeds across the land. In the blink of an eye, verdant life erupted. Spreading wildly across the mountains, a sea of green surged forth as towering tree giants rose from the earth and strode into formation. Swordmaster Luo Yinyu raised her blade. A sharp chorus of steel echoed through the air as tens of thousands of Luo family women unsheathed their swords in unison. Their presence radiated heroic spirit, their resolve as sharp as the blades they wielded. Fu family's sisters! Mu Yingshui's voice rang out. Fu Yunxi issued her command. At once, the divine arts practitioners of the Fu family summoned dark clouds that stretched across 1,000 miles. Lightning flashed, thunder roared, and colossal tornadoes formed within the storm. Yet under their control, the tornadoes twisted and coiled without advancing. Mu Yingshui advanced alongside the Mu family practitioners. With a single motion, they cast their deadliest poisons into the raging winds, The tornadoes devoured the toxins and carried them into the storm clouds above. The clouds turned a sinister, bewitching green. Even the lightning that flashed within them bore a faint green hue. The entire sky became a sea of lethal poison. Atop the city tower, a young man stood as violent winds surged behind him, his robes fluttering wildly. The chill of the wind cooled the heat that surged within his body. His blood was boiling. The battlefield formed by these women was utterly different from that of Eternal Peace's armies, but the fervor it ignited was no less intense. Women were no weaker than men. Though they possessed beauty that could topple kingdoms, they were equally warriors who could shake the heavens. The air grew heavy, somber, and desolate. Before True Heaven Palace, an oppressive stillness reigned. The black clouds that threatened to devour the city were held in check, leaving only the sound of the wind. That suffocating pressure alone was enough to drive one mad. Then, a figure emerged. From the palaces hidden within the sea of clouds, a lone silhouette flew forth, passing through the ranks of mountain giants that did not so much as glance at him. Bagou, Hiyi, Mu Yingshui, Fu Yunyi, and the others felt their expressions shift slightly. They had not faltered before the mountain giants. Yet at the sight of this single man, their faces changed. Hiyi let out a soft cry. The bamboo city split apart as countless stones rose into the air, rapidly forming a defensive formation that shielded the He family disciples behind her. She herself rose upon a floating stone, positioning herself before the formation. At that moment, another figure appeared beside her. It was Qin Mu. A warmth stirred within Hiyi's heart. Sword spirits, celestial soldiers, Luo Yinyu shouted. Tens of thousands of Luo family women raised their swords with qi. Countless blades clanged as they rose into the sky, weaving into a vast sword formation. Though the swords filled the heavens, their movements were perfectly ordered. 8 pillars heaven! Fang Chadi cried out. The mountain giants behind her formed massive circular pillars that seemed capable of propping up the heavens themselves. 8 giants stepped forward, lifting the pillars onto their shoulders, their killing intent surging like a storm. Other families unleashed their own techniques, all while watching the approaching figure with tense vigilance. Even Liu Ruyin and Liu Zhenqing were filled with unease. They stood before the golden god coffin, ready to release the corpse within at a moment's notice. Qin Mu's heart trembled. Bagou alone had driven all the great families of West Earth to the brink of revealing their ultimate trump cards. It was impossible not to admit. This man was truly awe-inspiring. How can a man surnamed Yu from high heavens instill such fear in all the families of West Earth, as though they face a mortal enemy? Qin Mu was bewildered. West Earth was dominated by powerful families rather than sects. The top 10 were each formidable in their own right. Even if a guest from high heavens arrived, even if a god descended, there should be no need for such caution. Bagou was no mere guest. Yet as the figure drew closer, Qin Mu realized something unexpected. Bagou was not monstrous or sinister in appearance. On the contrary, he was strikingly handsome, his figure tall and robust. His garments were crafted from an unknown material that flowed like water, each thread seemingly woven from runes. From time to time, faint, indiscernible lights flickered across the fabric. His attire fit him perfectly, revealing a body without excess. He dressed like a man of West Earth, with white cloth wrapped around his head and golden chains crossing over it. Yet he wore few adornments compared to others. His nose bridge was high, and his gaze was gentle, giving a pleasant impression to those who saw him. When Qin Mu looked at him, he found the man bore a resemblance to the Jade Sovereign of high heavens. He had once seen that perfect corpse. Though slain by Emperor Yanfeng, its beauty had remained unparalleled. His temperament resembles Xu Shenghua. Qin Mu's heart stirred in shock. Bagou's bearing also carried something of Eternal Peace, Imperial Preceptor. Xu Shenghua's presence was detached from the mortal world, as though he had descended from above, untouched by worldly affairs. Even after Qin Mu had dragged him into the mortal realm, that aloof brilliance remained unchanged. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor, on the other hand, was cold and resolute. His was the stance of one who had climbed the highest peak and now looked down upon all beneath him. His heart held only reform. Everything else was cast aside as obstacles to be eliminated. Yet Bagou, he embodied both. Chief He, the man with the embroidered headband greeted as he approached. Chief Mu, Chief Lu, Chief Feng. Though enemies, all returned his greeting. Ba Go. The man turned his gaze toward Qin Mu. A smile spread across his face as he revealed his teeth. Human Emperor Qin. Qin Mu's heart trembled slightly, but he returned the greeting. Ba Go, may I ask how you know of someone as insignificant as I? Human Emperor Qin. There is no need for such humility, the man said calmly. I have always paid attention to the human emperors of each generation. For the previous one, I even descended personally to the lower bound. You have seen what became of his 4 limbs, have you not? He extended his hand in a grasping motion. A Mu family woman was suddenly dragged before him, unable to resist. She struggled, but it was futile. The man drew his sword. A flash of light, an arm fell. With a gentle wave, he sent the severed limb flying toward Qin Mu. Cult Master Qin, have a look. Qin Mu's pupils contracted. His vital qi surged forth as he examined the wound carefully. His brow furrowed. The exact same sword wound. It was me. The man smiled warmly. It seems he did not hide the truth from you. Behind the layers of formations, Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor and Xiong Shiyu remained hidden, observing from afar. But when the Imperial Preceptor saw the sword light, his expression changed drastically. Not good. I recognize this sword path. All the families of West Earth must retreat at once. Xiong Shiyu shook her head. The arrow is already on the string. We cannot withdraw. Why has the Imperial Preceptor lost his composure? The Imperial Preceptor drew a deep breath, his eyes flashing with urgency. I know this sword. It is the very technique that severed the old human emperor's limbs. That man is not from the Yu family of high heavens. He is a true god from the upper bound. At the forefront of the formation, Qin Mu suddenly relaxed. A smile appeared on his face, devoid of any trace of fear. Your true body cannot descend to the lower bound, can it? He said lightly. If it could, would you still be hiding here like a fly in West Earth? He extended his hand, his expression turning savage. Since this is not your true body, then beating you to death won't be any trouble at all. Translator Ninetales, Editor Dark Gem. The man wearing the embroidered headband slowly withdrew his magic power, and in that instant, the corpse of the Mu family's female divine arts practitioner tumbled down from the heavens like a withered leaf. So young, yet already clinging to the same illusory dreams as that former human emperor. Though his sword had merely severed her arm, the invisible sword, will that accompanied his strike had already permeated her entire body, dissolving her essence and annihilating her primordial spirit without leaving the slightest trace behind. With his mastery of the sword path, he did not even require direct harm to end a life. A mere surge of sword will was sufficient to crush an opponent's soul into nothingness. Mu Yingxie clenched her fists tightly, her knuckles whitening, yet she forcibly suppressed the fury surging within her heart. She did not erupt. The fallen was one of her own clansmen, yet in the face of the unfathomable Ba Go, she dared not act recklessly. The man in the embroidered headband cast his gaze across the gathered chiefs. Behind him loomed the towering mountains and the true Heaven Palace, their presence vast and imposing, exuding an extraordinary aura. He spoke leisurely, his tone calm yet domineering. Chiefs of West Earth, you have chosen rebellion for the authority of true Heaven Palace, yet you fail to understand that this authority originates from me. I will grant you a path of retreat. Withdraw now, sever the head of this human Emperor Qin, and present it to true Heaven Palace. Do this, and I shall let bygones be bygones. Qin Mu felt a chill run through his body when he noticed that quite a number of the chiefs wavered. The army of West Earth that he had gathered was never a unified iron wall. It was merely a coalition bound together by mutual interests, though many of the female chiefs were as radiant as blooming flowers. And though Qin Mu shared deep ties with several of them, they were ultimately no different from the sect masters and cult leaders of Eternal Peace. These women placed the survival and prosperity of their clans above all else. Personal sentiments would never cloud their rational judgment. If they chose to withdraw upon hearing those words, Qin Mu would not find it surprising in the least. At that moment, Mu Yingxie suddenly shook the bells upon her wrist. Their clear chimes rang out in the stillness, crisp and resolute, as she smiled. The rest of you may withdraw, but the Mu family cannot. What we owe to the Xiang family must be repaid. Otherwise, my heart will never know peace. He glanced coldly at the others, her expression indifferent. Yu Bochuan perished within my bamboo city. Whether I stay or go, I will face censure. Since that is the case, I might as well overturn the rule of the Yu family entirely. The He family will not retreat. Lu Ruyan hesitated briefly before turning her gaze toward Lu Zhengqing, who sat atop the small coffin beside her, licking it with intense focus. Sensing the attention, Lu Zhengqing suddenly lifted her head and smiled sweetly. Just as Cult Master Qin said, he is merely a clone of a true god, not difficult to kill. Only if the true god descended to the lower bound would things become troublesome. Mother, I have already accepted Sister Cheer's hawthorn candy, so naturally I must do something for the Xiang family. And besides, her smile grew even more enchanting. Who can guarantee that the Yu family will not seek trouble with us afterward? They are notoriously petty. But if we eliminate them now, the Xiang mother and daughter will control True Heaven Palace, and they will have to rely on our Lu family. The rewards far outweigh the risks, so why not? Qin finally felt a weight lift from his heart. Though Lu Zhengqing appeared to be nothing more than a child, she was in truth a cunning old fox. Her words seemed innocent. Yet they had struck directly at the core of everyone's thoughts. With that single statement, the great families solidified their resolve. Bago would no longer be able to sway them. Among all the chiefs, perhaps only Mu Yingxie was truly sincere in aiding Xiang Xiu and Xiang Qier, driven by a desire for redemption. The others were motivated, to varying degrees, by their own interests. But for Qin Mu, that was already enough. The man in the embroidered headband smiled faintly. Men die for wealth, birds perish for food. Even refined and graceful women such as yourselves are no exception, foolish and unworthy of your forms. Very well. Since you seek death, I shall grant it. He turned as if to leave, yet in that instant He Yi suddenly smiled and spoke. Since Bago has come, there is no need for you to leave. Countless massive boulders surged forward from behind her, hurtling toward the man like a roaring avalanche. At the same time, nearly all the chiefs unleashed their abilities. Behind Fang Katie, the mountain giants lifted colossal stone pillars, wielding entire mountain peaks as weapons as they smashed toward the man with the embroidered headband. Luo Yinyu drew her sword and thrust forward. In her wake, countless flying swords followed, clinging close to the mountain peak as it crashed toward their enemy. Mu Yingxie flicked her finger, and Fu Yunqi slammed down with force. Lightning erupted, and a violent storm carried the poison. Mu Yingxie had cast, surging toward the man like a devouring tempest. Li Ruyan and Lu Zhengqing released the chains binding the golden coffin, and the chains soared forth like black flood dragons, coiling toward the target. The leaders of West Earth's great families disregarded all martial conventions. Without warning, they attacked as one, determined to prevent Bago from retreating behind his forces at any cost. Qin Mu nodded silently. Well done. The man in the embroidered headband continued walking toward True Heaven Palace. Behind him, swordlight flashed like a streak of heaven's wrath, slicing apart every incoming attack. Before He Yi's formation could even close, his sword had already carved open a path. The mountain pillars were cleaved apart by flawless swordlight, the raging storm was severed by a blade that cut across the sky, and the chains were merely touched by the tip of his sword before being sent flying back. Excellent swordsmanship. In terms of sword skills, no one in West Earth can match him. Indeed, his mastery is extraordinary. Qin Mu's expression grew grave. The swordsmanship of the man in the embroidered headband had reached perfection, a realm so profound that even gods and spirits would find it impossible to predict his movements. Cheer, quickly activate the green dragon bead. Xiang Qier immediately activated the green dragon bead. In an instant, green light erupted forth, dazzling and boundless. The roar of dragons shook the heavens as a tide of emerald brilliance surged toward True Heaven Palace. Wherever the light passed, all things became lignified. Even the mountain giants surrounding True Heaven Palace stiffened, their bodies emitting green radiance, as countless vines sprouted and coiled around them at an astonishing speed. The women standing atop those mountain giants were instantly seized by the power of the green dragon bead. With soft popping sounds, tender sprouts and blooming flowers burst forth from their faces. The green dragon bead, one of the 4 great spirit treasures of True Heaven Palace, unleashed unimaginable power in the hands of the young girl. Even the man in the embroidered headband froze as the green light bathed him. His body began to stiffen, as if it too were turning into wood. Such was the terrifying might of the green dragon bead. At that very moment, from within the cloud-wreathed palaces, several women of True Heaven Palace stepped forward. From their hands, precious beads rose into the air. The 3 spirit beads ascended, growing ever more radiant. Within one coiled the souls of a tortoise and a serpent. Within another prowled the spirit of a white tiger. The last burned with flames, within which a divine bird soared. The 3 beads shone brilliantly, their light clashing violently against that of the green dragon bead. Thunderous dragon roars echoed as a green dragon burst forth from the bead, expanding to an immense size in an instant. It soared through the heavens, coiling around the towering mountains in a breathtaking display. Before True Heaven Palace, the light of the 3 spirit treasures intensified. The white tiger, black tortoise, flying serpent, and vermilion bird emerged from the beads. The white tiger crouched upon a peak and roared toward the sky. The vermilion bird cried sharply, spreading a sea of flames with its wings. The black tortoise stepped upon the ocean, causing thunderous rumbling as it rose skyward, while the flying serpent wove through the waves. The 3 women of True Heaven Palace had activated the remaining spirit treasures, joining forces to suppress Xiang Qier's green dragon bead. The traces of lignification on the man's body rapidly faded. He smiled faintly. The flying sword behind his back returned to its sheath, and he withdrew into True Heaven Palace. "Kill them," his voice echoed from within. As the power of the green dragon bead was suppressed, the women atop the mountain giants recovered from their petrified state and broke free. The green radiance on the mountain giants' bodies faded. They stirred, their colossal forms moving once more, wielding mountain-like blades as they struck toward the West Earth forces. He shouted sharply. The massive catapults activated, swinging their enormous arms and hurling rock giants into the battlefield. Though small in comparison, these rock figures stretched their limbs mid-air, pouncing toward their towering adversaries. Flames erupted in the sky. Before they could land, the rock giants were shattered into fragments by the mountain giants' immense weapons. Ancient treasures of the sects unleashed terrifying power in the hands of the mountain giants, pulverizing the rock figures into dust that blanketed the ground. Yet many rock giants still managed to land upon the bodies of their enemies, scrambling upward toward their heads. The disciples of True Heaven Palace unleashed their divine arts with utmost intensity, as though facing mortal enemies. They extracted the spirits from their foes, reducing them back into lifeless piles of stone that tumbled to the ground. Whoosh! A torrential rain began to fall. Each droplet shimmered with a green hue as lightning and thunder tore across the heavens. It was the poison storm conjured by the Mu and Fu families. Within the storm, even the lightning crackled with venomous green light. Rain and lightning fused together, striking down upon the peaks where the mountain giants stood. More women from True Heaven Palace flew forth, unleashing countless spirit weapons. Gold and silver bracelets of every size that spread across the mountains. The spinning bracelets drew in lightning and rainwater, binding them within before casting them down along the mountainsides. Dark clouds churned violently as tornadoes descended, twisting toward the bracelets. The woman wielding the black tortoise bead activated its power. A vast sea poured forth, engulfing the clouds, lightning, and tornadoes alike. "Kill!" Cries erupted from Qin Mu's side. The massive catapults strode forward several miles before lowering themselves. Countless women leaped into their frames and were hurled into the battlefield. Numerous mountain giants advanced, colliding with those guarding True Heaven Palace. Tens of thousands of disciples stood upon them as countless spirit weapons filled the skies, clashing against the defenders. Vines stretched down from the heavens, sweeping toward the mountain giants. The women of the Shi family stepped upon these vines, traversing the battlefield as they launched attacks upon the defenders, while the vines coiled around the peaks. Rumble. A pagoda-shaped mountain crashed down, crushing countless Shi family women beneath it. Yet there was no time for grief. The survivors seized control of rivers that surged like flood dragons, sending them crashing toward the mountains. They collided with the waterfalls and rivers descending from above. Within the waters, countless water giants rose, wielding blades of mysterious ice as they charged toward their enemies. The land before True Heaven Palace had transformed into a vast Asura battlefield, and the warriors within it were all enchanting women. Fatty Dragon, protect Chi'er! Chinmu leaped onto Hiyi's floating stone. The vast bamboo city had already fragmented into countless massive rocks, surging upward like a rising tide into the sky.